So you're thinking of going to business school. That's great. And there are a lot of good reasons why you should go. But there's actually a lot of reasons why you should not go. So in this video, I want to talk about both of those things. So tune in. Hi, my name is Sherjan. I was a vice president in investment banking at Morgan Stanley. And prior to that, I was at Google. But on the internet, I'm your personal mentor. So today I want to specifically talk about business school. And it's a topic that we've known since literally day one. I feel like as soon as we get into undergrad, everybody's like, how do we get to Harvard Business School? Even though we haven't even taken the first course in undergrad or gotten our first job, but somehow everybody wants to go to Harvard Business School. And why is that? So I come from an immigrant family, and I remember my dad and my mom always telling me and having that dream that, hey, one day my son will go to Harvard. Unfortunately, I never did. So, but anyways, you probably have that chance and have that opportunity. I want to make sure you do it, but I want to make sure you do it for the right reasons. But before we get to the right reasons, I want to tell you about and talk to you about the wrong reasons, why a lot of people do it, and I don't want you to do it for those reasons. So number one, why do people, go to business schools, and why shouldn't you, go to business school? And here are some of the wrong reasons why you shouldn't go. So number one, you're supposed to go. That's how life is, right? That's how we've been trained, that you go to undergrad, then you get your job at McKinsey or Goldman Sachs, and then you got to go to Harvard Business School. That's just how life is. But that's not good. That's a bad reason to go to business school. Remember, business school is going to cost you $200,000, $300,000, opportunity costs, a lot of things involved, right? And you're going because someone said that that's what you're supposed to do. That's what society has said that you're supposed to do. So that's the wrong reason for you to go to business school for. So don't go to business school just because that's what it was written. That's what you've been trained from day one. Those days are long gone. If we were talking about in the 60s or 70s, when it was a very industrial kind of work environment where people needed to get skills, management skills and those kind of things, and that would kind of get them to their next job, otherwise they would hit a glass ceiling, that made sense. But now we're in the 2020s, right? And we're in a totally different era. And now is very, very different. So you don't want to be in a situation like that where you're just doing something which is based on a 50-year-old trend. Today is different. So number one, don't go to business school just because you're supposed to go to business school. Number two, don't go to business school just because Jimmy's going to business school, right? Just because your friend or that smart kid on campus or that super smart gal on campus or at your work has gotten into GSB or Harvard Business School or INSEAD or whatever the top business schools are, just because they're doing it doesn't mean you should do it. And just because they got in doesn't mean you're bad or you're not good enough. So a lot of people get into this herd mentality, this peer pressure, this mentality of being part of this club, and if they don't do the same, they're not going to be wanted on the industry, wanted on the street. That's the wrong reason. So don't go to business school just because someone else is going to business school. Everybody has their own life, everybody has their own career, everybody does things for their own reasons, right? And trust me, their reasons will never affect you. But if you start taking those in and changing your life and carving your path based on someone else's path, you're going to ultimately hurt yourself because you're not going to do things for yourself. You're doing it for other people. So don't go just because Jimmy's going or Jenny's going. Next up, you have nothing better to do, right? So you go to business school because either you're unemployed and you're bored and you just don't have anything better to do. Again, that's the wrong reason to go to business school. Don't do it if you have nothing else to do. Remember, there's a lot of money involved. There's a lot of cost involved. There's a lot of time involved. A lot of business school programs are 2 years long, right? That's a long time. And I don't want you to waste it by just going to this business school. A lot of times I find people who go to these business schools and they meet other people who are also confused and lost, right? They're also lost, they're also lazy, they just don't know what to do. So they all get together and they're like, we're all lost together now. What's next? So don't go just because you have nothing better to do. Now this is my favorite one. A lot of people will go to business school because they'll be like, oh, the firm's paying for it, right? McKinsey's paying for it. Sherjan, I'm gonna go, right? They're paying for it. Are they? Are they really paying for it, right? They're not really paying for it. A lot of times when these firms say, hey, we'll pay for your business school, right? What actually happens is they commit you to stay after you finish that business school. So you go to this business school for what? To come back and sit in the same cubicle, but now with a window, or a cubicle that has, two less walls than before? Is that worth it, right? That's not worth it, right? So don't go to business school just because your firm has kind of gotten you to be like, oh, we'll pay for it and you'll have a job waiting for you. Then you come back and then you're back to that rocket ship of a trajectory in your career. That's the wrong reason. Ultimately, in those situations, it's the firm that wins, not the employee or the student or the potential student. So don't take those opportunities unless they're really, really good. This firm says, hey, we'll pay for it. And then look, you decide if you want to come back. no clawbacks. That's different, right? That's them saying, hey, you've done a great job in the last 3-4 years with us, and we want to, pay you back. And the way we want to pay you back is we'll cover your business school, right? That's awesome. But if they say, hey, come back and then you got to commit to us for 4 years or 5 years, or there's going to be consequences and clawbacks, not a good deal. So don't go to business school just because the firm is paying for it. Finally, don't go to business school just because you got in, right? Just because you get into something doesn't mean it's going to be great. Just because I got into a club doesn't mean I'm enjoying it, right? Just because you have an opportunity doesn't mean you take it, right? Just because you have a flight to some place in the world doesn't mean you get on it, right? Yes, applying to these things can feel great and you get that credibility that, hey, I got into HBS or I got into GSB or whatever school that you want to get into, but then really figure out why are you going there? What is the reason for you to go there? Just getting there is not going to be, or just getting in, for example, getting that, stamp of approval shouldn't be the reason. And a lot of times people do it because they're like, hey, I got in, makes me feel better, makes me look better in front of other people's eyes. My mom is happy, my dad's happy, my dog's happy, my cat's happy, my boyfriend, girlfriend, and all my friends are happy for me. Yes, they are. But remember, they're only happy on day one. Nobody's there after that first time you tell them, and every day they're like, oh man, I'm so happy Stacy's going to HBS. And 5 years from now, like, Stacy, good job. I knew you could do it. You went through HBS. Doesn't work like that. Other people's happiness for you and excitement is a very micro moment, right, in time. The rest of it is going to be your suffering. So don't go because of all of those reasons. And finally, the last one I would say of the reason why you shouldn't go is if you already have a good brand. Right? If you already have a good brand, let's just say you went to a decent enough, top 20 undergrad, and then you got into a top 5 or top 10 company, like let's just say McKinsey, Goldman Sachs, BCG, Morgan Stanley, one of those brands, or Google or Facebooks of the world. But then you think like, oh, if I add HBS to it, suddenly my career is going to be even better. That's not true. Because remember, before you got into HBS, you already have some of the world's best brands on your resume. You're already top 5% of the world's potential talent pool applying for these jobs. So your street credibility, brand level is at like a 95%. You're better than most people, right? You're better than 95% of people. And now if you go and add HBS to that, or GSB to that, or Columbia Business School to that, you're only going to go from 95 to 95.5%. Nobody's going to come and be like, oh, great job, Jenny. Now you have HBS on your resume. Now you're worth it. Now we're definitely going to give you an interview. That's not the reason why you were successful or unsuccessful before, just because you added this extra brand credibility. You already had credibility. So if you already have credibility, it's not going to add an additional credibility to your resume just by adding one more brand, because you're already good. So those are the reasons why you shouldn't go to business school. So what are the reasons why you should actually go to business school? Number one is brand. If you don't have a good brand, right, you're coming from a super non-target background in a totally different part of the world, and somehow you got in and it's a much better brand than where you were before, great, that's awesome. Because now you're gonna go from like a 60 or 70% street brand credibility level to a 95%. That's a good jump. That's worth it. That's worth the 2 years of investment and the money and the cost and all those things. So do it for that reason. That's a good reason. Number two, if you want to pivot in your career. So let's say you're working in some industry, let's say you're in engineering, or you're in back office, or you're doing some sort of analytical work, but now you want to switch to front office. You want to switch to consulting or investment banking or private equity or hedge fund. That change of trajectory in terms of a pivot of a career, a great place to do it in a business school. Because when you go to business school, it's not like you'll learn something new. What it does is it opens up the opportunities, because recruiters come to business school to recruit the next talent pool. So you basically get an at-bat with like 100 companies, right? You get to meet all these alumni who are potentially at these firms and they want to help you. So it basically is a lot better and a lot easier for you to pivot to that next career that you want to do, right? And change of career. I'm not saying going from like an associate to a vice president in the same vertical. That's not what I'm saying here. I'm saying if you want to pivot, coming from one industry, going to a different industry. That's where a business school can be super helpful, because recruiters and companies will come and hire from that pool. And if you're in that pool, you'll get that opportunity as well. Then network. Similarly to getting all these recruiters to come to this pool, you basically become part of this massive pool, this massive alumni list and this network. If you didn't have a network before, let's say you didn't go to a good brand, or you didn't work at a great brand, and you're lacking a network that you can reach out to naturally, organically, then a business school allows you to do that, right? It gives you an alumni list of hundreds and thousands of people who've been in your shoes and now are potentially doing amazing things in their life that you can just cold email and say, hey, I'm also at the same business school as you were 20 years ago or 30 years ago. I need your help. Can you please do a coffee chat with me, or let me know about your recruiting processes. So if you really want to build your network, right, and it doesn't exist right now, or you're feeling like there's some headwinds and you feel like there's some bottlenecks and you reaching out cold on LinkedIn and other resources, then a business school is a great place to be, right? It'll help you open up your network. But this is important, don't go chasing that network if you already have a great network. So if you went to Stanford or Wharton and now you're like, oh, I want to go to HBS because I want to get the HBS network. No, that's the same point as like being a 95% brand credibility and now trying to get another 0.5% on it to get to 5.5. So don't do it because of that. But if you don't have a network and you want to build a brand new massive network, great place to be. Next up is geography. So if you're coming from, let's say, India, China, Canada, Australia, and you want to get, tap into a brand new region, let's just say United States, oh man, business school is one of the best places to be because you get access to that, region. When you get access to that region, you get to interact with students from that region, the culture. You get to interact with the alumni from that region. You can have coffee chats from that region. You get some sort of summer internship visa as well, which allows you to work in that region and get that international experience that you wanted, right? That US experience that you wanted. And ultimately, when the firms will hire you, most likely they'll hire you for US opportunities. So if you want to move to that city or that country in the future, you want to change the geography where you're coming from and start a new life in this new world and basically start a fresh start in this new city, new country, that's a great place to be. Go to business school for that. It allows you to do that. And that's what I did. I moved from Canada to the US and it gave me opportunity in the US and I enjoyed all of it. So if that's your reason, that's a good reason to have. Finally, it's a great place to find a partner. So if you're tired of your social life and you're like, you know what, I just want to take a break and I want to go to business school because there's going to be like-minded people who are in similar industries as me and I'm looking for my wife or my husband or whatever else you want to look for, right? It's a great place to socialize. It's a great place to just take a break from the hamster wheel of life and just, pause on like all of this, like, let's make money, let's, get the next rank and up. Just, relax, ease in, learn a few things, network, enjoy, meanwhile socialize, and you never know, you find your life partner there. So that's the video, team. Go to business school to figure out what happens after the business school, right? Don't go to the business school just for the sake of going to business school. That's the wrong reason, right? Figure out what happens if I go to this, training ground, this network, or brand opportunity, and where will it get me after those 2 years? That's the right reason for going to business school. So tell me in the comment section below, why are you going to business school? What is your reason and motivation? If you've already applied, let me know. If you're about to apply, let me know. I'll definitely reply to that. Thanks so much for coming to my channel.